Oh wow, wait. Fuck off me, little bug. What's poppin'? Wow. Look at this camera quality. It's kind of crazy. Um, what I gotta say? What I gotta say? I say this. What it do? I'm still amazed by this camera quality. This is really impressive. Anyway, what's up? What's going on, world? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I'm back. Share me deep. I also go by the government name Shamar. um, we're back. It's July 15, 2025. It's a nice day out here, and I just felt like talking, chatting, and venting a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on this summer. A lot of stuff going on in my personal life this whole year, but I can't complain. Things are good, and I'm just trying to do what I can to help the world. I'm still trying to be about my mission. I'm still trying to, figure out my own life and what my capabilities are, and what things I can offer to this world. So every day it's like a constant battle, a constant struggle to find more of myself. And for me, I have to really push myself, because I know if I don't push myself, nothing's gonna get done. I'm not gonna progress anywhere. I'm just gonna stay in the same boat. So every day I have to keep getting better, keep finding ways to inspire myself to want to get better, and to just keep living in the moment. Just understanding that, hey man, life is short, and the only thing that matters is the present moment. So I really take that upon myself to make sure these things happen. I do the things that feed my soul and my spirit, not just my body. Because you can feed your body. You can feed your body food, alcohol, any type of pleasures. But if those things are not feeding your soul, then and really internally, it's killing you. It's destroying you from the inside. So, I always do things that feed my soul, whether that is like working out, whether that is listening to music, whether it's chatting, spending time with my family, helping people, giving out information, or just doing things that I just enjoy doing, cooking, stuff like that, cleaning, like these things help feed my spirit and makes me feel better. It makes me become a better person. And, I also just feel more in tune with life when I do these things too, more in tune with my purpose and why I'm here and what I'm supposed to be doing. So these are things I wish that we all can do, find our own niche of things that we like. And fucking mosquitoes, I'm sorry for the language, bro. These mosquitoes are everywhere. They're like bloodsuckers. They're really just like mooching. So all they do is mooch. Just splatted one all over my foot. Anyway, but yeah, man, it's really something to life. I'm 28 years old. I turned 29 in September, and I've learned a lot in these short 29 years. Because I'm in my 29th year of life. But I've learned a lot. I've been through a lot, and there's also a lot I don't know, and I'm still, willing to find out and experience. There's a lot of places I want to travel to still. But until the time is right, until the time being, I'm just continuing to keep working on myself. And for me, I've always said the same things. I'm always just working on myself. But there's always ups and downs in life. There's times in life where, like, my weight had fluctuates. My weight goes from skinny to a little bit heavier, on the heavier side, and my confidence goes from really confident to not as confident. So it's just like, there's things that I go through in life, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I just noticed that life is just a roller coaster. Things are just gonna go up and down. Things are gonna be good one minute, and then next minute they're not as good. But you still have to be in the fight, because the fight is what matters. The journey on how long you make it is what matters, and what you do to get yourself out of when you're in the down periods. What do you do to get yourself out of that? You know, that's the test of life. That's really the challenge in life, is seeing how you respond to adversity. And all my life I felt like I've been challenged, and maybe not as challenged as others, but I've definitely had my fair share of struggles. So I like to just teach people what I've been through and the things I do to get over things and overcome. And sometimes I got to remind myself those same things, because a lot of the time the battles that I went through in the past, they pop up again, and it kind of tests me again, like, all right, you got to kind of fight the same battle again. So I'm currently going through those things too, those current things as well. So it's something to be aware of. The battle that you always have, that you've always faced, it's never going to go away. It's just gonna hide itself, and then it'll come back eventually. So you just got to keep knowing how to fight, stay in the fight, how to, what techniques work to get you to keep moving forward, because these battles will set you back. And I can tell you that you will receive setbacks in life if you do not know how to fight these battles. So I just got to keep reminding myself how to keep pushing forward. So a lot of the things that I've learned is things that you can tell and teach other people, but a lot of these things also I have to keep telling myself. Being able to have a conversation with yourself, an honest, true conversation with yourself, is so important. I think that none of us do it often enough. We don't have these conversations with ourselves enough. We don't sit in silence and look in the mirror and actually talk to ourselves, observe ourselves. We don't do that as often, because life can be so, it can be a blur sometimes. So I feel like when you're able to sit down quietly, in a quiet place, either inside, outside, if you can look in the mirror and just be alone and just talk to yourself, I think everyone should do it at least once a day, just to kind of get your bearings straight on where you want to go for the day, and how you want your mind to start thinking and direction. Being able to do that at least once a day kind of gives you clarity. So I've learned that that's really important. And insects everywhere. I learned that's really important though, because if you don't, time's just gonna keep passing you by, and then you look up and then you're in somewhere completely different. So if you're able to keep backtracks of how your progress is going each day and each week, each month, that's really what's gonna keep you in tune with life. It can be hard though, because you can be on your phone, and your phone can take you in so many directions, and it's hard to put the phone away, and you have these cravings. So it's being able to master that discipline of, all right, I need to move on to the next thing. I need to put this down. I need to not touch this app anymore. I need to not open this app anymore. Being able to be concise with your time. I think that's really important in this generation. A lot of these young kids, if you were born after 2004, you really don't know life without cell phones. You know what I mean? After 2004, 2005, cell phones really became a big thing. And the generations coming up after that time, all they knew was cell phones. Say if you were born in 2005 and then you turned 10 in 2015, that was the prime years of Instagram and all these other apps were really coming about. So it's your adolescence, your younger years, all you knew was just apps and phones and screens. But for me, and I'm sure the other generations before me, our adolescent years were filled with playing outside, connecting with your neighbors, and doing things in person. And only way you were communicating with people was in person. You weren't communicating with people through screens, at least not as much. When I was growing up, in 2005, there was internet, and there was Facebook, not Facebook, MySpace, and AOL messaging, and all these other things. But you know, we were on it, but we weren't really like on it like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was a time where you were on that stuff, but for the most part, most of your day was spent, you know, outside, at work, school, or somewhere where you're communicating with people. You know what I mean? Like there was very little screen time. You know, people we were playing video games a lot back in those days, definitely. But you're still like found a balance where you were communicating with people. You know, it wasn't like you were just like in the house and you didn't communicate with a single person outside of your family in the household. You know what I mean? Like that's happening way too often nowadays, where kids are like in the house the entire day. They haven't spoke to anyone outside their household. You know what I mean? Any physical interactions they haven't had. And sometimes some kids don't even speak to the people in their household. So, you know, that's really bad, and it's scary to see, because now, you know, what type of life are you living? And, you know, the mind, it needs to be proactive. And if you're not being proactive, you know, your mind can start to slip, and it can start to, you know, go different ways. And, you know, the development of your whole, you know, body and your whole personality will drastically be affected if you do not socialize and engage with humans on a daily basis. You know, like it's one thing to just talk to someone over the phone and over a screen, but it's completely something different to talk to somebody in person, look them in the eye, you know, get a feel of their energy, their vibe, and to really, you know, resonate and humanize with them. It's very, very different. So I think this generation is lacking that skill. They're lacking that experience of, you know, being in person with each other. That's why I really didn't like when the whole, you know, C-19 things was going on and the lockdowns, and they kept kids from going to school, because a lot of kids were like messed up mentally, you know, from not seeing their friends and not being able to go outside and just do things. Like it messed up a lot of kids mentally, and it forced them to be on the screens and the tablets and shit. So it's like that stuff really can have an effect on your mind and your body, you know. And as a small child whose brain isn't fully developed yet, it can really, really have an effect. So like the people who run the world, people who run the governments and everything like that, they know human psychology. They know how the human body works. They know how the human mind works. They know how everything about the human person works. They know everything about us. So they know what they do to either get us distracted, to you know, make us angry, upset. They know every tactic in the book, you know, and they use this to their advantage to take control, to have more control over people, and have control over land and opportunities and around the world. They take control of everything, you know. They're in every industry. They've set their fingers in every industry in this world. Anything that involves money, there's someone in the elite group and the, you know, secret societies who have their hand somewhere in that industry. So, you know, that's the problem, is that we've allowed evil to take place. You know, I saw something on Twitter today, and it said that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it basically said that the amount of hours that have been spent playing Call of Duty worldwide for, like, I don't know, since the time they've even created Call of Duty online, they said it was like, it was like 200 billion hours humans have spent playing Call of Duty. 200 billion hours, if I'm not mistaken. That was the number, which is insane. Like that's absolutely insane. That's like years and years and years of time spent playing Call of Duty. And I was looking at this and I'm like, yo, all the time spent playing Call of Duty, all that time that men, because it's mostly men, you know, like women, yeah, there's women that play, but it's mostly men. All that time, that time could have been spent doing something else. It could have been spent fighting the evil in this world, fighting the governments from doing fighting the governments from doing their wrongdoings on humanity. You know, the government has really made this world really a terrible place to live in the past, I would say, 50 years. You know, I mean, I wasn't here before 1996, but like, you know, I've talked to my elders, and I know how it was back in those days. They told me a lot of things. Yeah, it's gotten better, you know, socially and, you know, politically, I would say, for a little bit, you know, as far as people being able to have rights to vote and, you know, having certain liberties, you know, stuff like that. But it's still as bad. I think maybe it's probably, the world is worse than it was during slavery, in my opinion. And it's because it's not like we're slaves to a chain. It's like we're slaves to a phone. We're slaves to the money. We're slaves to, you know, bills and stuff. So it's like they have us slaved in multiple different ways. It's not just physically like it was 200, 300, 400 years ago. Now it's like we're all slaves to something in this world, and our physical bodies might be, you know, free to roam around the earth, but we're still slaves to something. You know, we still owe a debt to something. We still have a craving to something. And all these things that are enslaving us, they're all coming from the elite groups that control the world. They've created technology. They've created, you know, a system where inequality is rapid. You know, they've created, you know, they've created communities that have really got people in such bad mind control. All right. Thanks for not done yet. All right. Thanks for ruining my video. Yeah, like I was saying, they've created, you know, communities, aka MAGA, you know, the highest degree of the Church of Satan. That's where MAGA comes from. They've created groups like that have really, you know, created such a divide in this country. You know, the division in this world is never been this much. It's never been this bad. You know, like we've seen people who are neighbors fight each other because one votes red, the other votes blue, and then we've seen the same neighbors fight over, you know, if this person can get an abortion and that person can't get an abortion, if this person deserves to stay here, if that person doesn't deserve to stay here, and a load of other. Sorry, there's so many bugs out here. I'm trying to like keep my focus and like chat with you guys, but I'm like fighting like 30 bugs right now. But yeah, they've created so much division in this world, and they keep us distracted by the games, the video games, the cell phones, the sports games, the media publicity, what's going on with athletes and entertainers. They keep us so divided by all these memes, and people just they fall for it every time. They don't see what's happening. They don't see that there's a big game being played against us as American population, and just the entire, you know, world. Like, it's not just America that's going through this, it's the entire world. And you know, if things don't change quickly, if we don't actually have this like wake up, you know, realization moment, we're gonna be in such a bad place where it's gonna be like we're gonna all be trapped in a dungeon and there's no key to get out. And we're all in the same dungeon. We're all in the same basement. We're just locked in a cell in the same basement, and none of us have the key to our own cells or the key to get out the basement. So